Welcome to our 1-year anniversary video. We're Audrey and Steven, and it's been a year since we started our full-time RV life, as well as our YouTube channel. We wanted to show everyone a progression of learning how to film and document our new life and take a look back on some of our victories and fails.
Last year, we bought a 1995 low-mileage Winnebago Vectra with almost all of the savings that we had. Now, every used and even new RVs come with their share of problems. And as we were downsizing our life, I was also ripping out the old generator that was going to cost $2,500 to fix for a $300 Craigslist generator I thought would be easy to shoehorn in. I also ran over my watch in a copper bracelet checking the air pressure in the back tires the first time. I started taking stock of other problems like the water heater and the roof as well. Once we got her, we started to take stock of some of the things we thought were outdated and need of a major upgrade. Also, sorry about the way most of this was shot. We didn't really know we wanted to be YouTubers yet, so a lot of what was recorded in the first few months was shot in the wrong perspective. One of the first things we did was pull out the kitchen table for a sim racing chair. Seems super irresponsible, right? Well, why else do you think we had to have a Class A? Most people we see doing this have much smaller RVs. Something that at the time was lost on us so that I could keep my hobby.
This was one of our first nights in Artemis with our new TV and Steven's rig all set up. It was quite an adjustment coming from a house that I'd spent a decade in. I had never even been in an RV before. There was a lot to learn, much to get used to, and maybe more convincing that I could actually do it.
This is actually our very first video. I was trying desperately not to lose the traction I was gaining in the sim racing community, with absolutely no idea the problems that RV life and the long winter ahead were about to present. Here is where we end up parking our RV. Luckily, I've always had good friends. Our first couple videos were not that impressive at all. I was trying to learn how to film and edit using my iPhone and an iPad I had just bought for the purpose of starting a YouTube channel. We found out very quickly how difficult that is when trying to edit larger videos. One of our hardest videos to get done was this one. It took us almost 2 months to produce it because the iPad would crash trying to work with that much raw footage. We had a lot of bad luck this winter. On one of the propane refill trips we had to get done, I dropped and broke my monitor. Because we didn't record any of that drama, instead, I just made a very bad unboxing video. The reason we were able to make that video isn't because of this computer. I realized that big dreams sometimes take sacrifice. Being depressed about not producing and having made a bad choice buying that tablet, I actually chickened out and came back to buy this Apple a few days later. And I'm very glad we did.
So then we started producing a video every other day, trying to find our niche. We still recorded video in the wrong perspective, but we tried to make the best of what we had while learning how to get better. And what we learned was our cute date videos were sadly unpopular.
Finding things to produce every other day became an exhausting exercise. To fill some of the gaps of RV living, I threw in a couple of wrenching videos. This is actually one of our most watched videos till this day, showing me that if RV stuff doesn't work out, I could always go back to wrenching and have a fairly popular YouTube channel on it. Winter was officially over, and one of the first and longest projects we had to tackle was our roof. It needed a lot of attention, and we made a whole series on it. Feel free to check it out.
This is my office. It's where the majority of my stuff ended up. Being a third-generation vintage and antique dealer, I had so much inventory and inherited items I couldn't just sell off that quickly. It's still not enough space for how much crap I have, and at this point, I wasn't sure how I was going to continue the vintage selling life and live the RV life.
We are still producing a video every other day, and Artemis is giving us no shortage of things that we can film. We are recording everything in the right perspective now and focusing less on sim racing. This is about the time I also put my beloved Blueberry up for sale. Oh, did I mention a tornado hit us? No, like seriously, ripped down trees on every house in our block. We still have no idea how the house we were parked up at and Artemis took no damage at all from it.
After 2.5 months of making videos every other day, we were pretty exhausted. This is one of the last videos we did before we took a 2-week break. Although the video was pretty unpopular, we think we learned a lot in that time, and we're committed to creating content for YouTube.
Hey, want to help us out? Subscribe to our channel. It's totally free, and it would really bring us joy. Then click the bell notification so you know when we have a new video up. Thanks.
During our break, while working on the roof one day, I got a strong smell of ammonia coming from a fridge vent. After a quick Google search and a visual inspection, we realized our RV fridge was toast. At the time, we were on an extremely tight budget. The roof was taking all of our hard-earned nickels. Looking at the prices of new RV refrigerators made my heart stutter. Looking at reconditioned fridges didn't help my weak condition. So I thought, what about a 12-volt fridge? We got plenty of that lying around. Well, they aren't cheap at all either. You know what is cheap? A residential apartment fridge that just so happened to be the same dimensions as our old RV unit. Just one problem. We want a boondock, and residential fridges don't run on hopes and dreams. If you want to know how it turned out, I guess you're just going to have to go watch the video. Last summer in Minnesota got hot, and living in an RV with no air conditioning is no way to live at all. We had problems with the RV's antiquated basement AC system. We had a lack of power to run the room air unit we had borrowed, and a generator that just was overheating after 15 minutes of runtime, offering no help at all. So what was my solution? Buy 2 more generators. Actually, just 1 more. The blue one I bought as a backup before we moved in when I realized that my Franken generator might not be the most reliable. Problem was, the blue generator only made about 1200 running watts. Not enough for an AC. But this GenMax 3000 running watt awesome cassette inverter generator definitely did the trick. And you guessed it, we made a playlist about it. Do you see us getting better at this yet? Man, I could teach you a thing or two about how not to make power in an RV though. When I bought Artemis, I knew almost nothing about sine waves and sensitive electronics. And I really butchered this poor thing, and it never saw it coming. Thankfully, I hope I'm done buying new generators for a while. This GenMax has performed absolutely flawlessly. As I continue to upgrade the RV, it proved to be a much needed part of our boondocking plan. Cold at last. Well, sort of. These things suck in an RV. They create a negative pressure so that the heat literally gets pulled in from the walls faster. They use too much power and are a pain to move when we had to travel. But with the fridge and the power problem sorted out, it's definitely time to get back to the poor roof. When I bought her, I was too nervous to get up on the roof, and boy, am I still mad at myself for it. Artemis had a lot of neglect, and we barely got to her in time. I knew absolutely nothing about RV roofs, and it was just Audrey and I, so it was a pretty slow-going task. This really did take up a big chunk of our summer. Although progress was slow, and it seemed to rain whenever I thought about getting up on the roof to work, slowly but surely, I started checking things off the list. And before we knew it, it was time to lay down the Henry's Tropicool roof sealant. This stuff was expensive and hard to work with. I treated it like it was liquid gold, even though I still managed to make a mess of it myself. We are very pleased with the end results and would definitely recommend Henry's to anyone trying to reseal a roof on an old RV. This is actually still our most watched video, by the way. Feel free to watch it and the whole series. You can find it in the cards above. We finished the roof and then immediately remembered how much we hated the air conditioner we were using. Even though it was getting late in the summer, at this point I knew that I needed more comfort in our life, especially as hard as we work. The old unit ran on 50 amps. We live on a 15 amp extension cord and a 25 amp generator. I don't have the power to turn that thing on. And even if I did, the thing doesn't work anymore. And finding someone that will service them is almost laughable. So what to do? We had this big space that we could use to retrofit something more efficient in there, but a mini split is the wrong dimensions and would require a fabrication budget we just didn't have.
We took a break from RV projects for Steven's birthday. We went to Jelly Bean and Julia's, a restaurant we feature often because of how much we love them, and it's seriously some of the best barbecue we've ever had. Then we stopped into T-Mobile because we were frustrated with our internet speeds and tired of struggling to upload videos. T-Mobile's internet is ridiculously fast almost anywhere we go, and definitely was a much-needed addition to our boondocking arsenal.
Back to our AC problem. So, what were we going to do? We had this big space that we could use to retrofit something more efficient in there, but a mini split is sort of the wrong dimensions, and it would require a fabrication budget we really just didn't have. But then I got this brilliant idea to take a perfectly good window air conditioner and Frankenstein it like I did the first generator. I'm getting pretty good at shoving things into spaces they aren't really meant to fit, and then figuring out how to prove everybody wrong. I'm personally the most proud of this series. It's the culmination of all my years as a wannabe fabricator, and I cannot describe to you how well this new system works, and how happy and cool we have been ever since I've installed it. Seriously, if you have an older RV with basement AC, I think this series is definitely worth a watch.
I had been selling vintage decor and jewelry locally and online for years, but business had been inconsistent. While scrolling Instagram one day, I found a new selling platform called Whatnot, a live auction app that seemed fun, so I applied immediately. Just a few days later, I was accepted and started going live and selling my stuff. I originally wanted to sell decor, but soon shifted to my passion of jewelry and then my own one-of-a-kind handmade jewelry. It's been about 5 months, and it's been a great job that gives me so much flexibility for my lifestyle.
Now, back to working on the RV. I was starting to feel pretty accomplished by this point, and was ready to take on more challenging maintenance projects. With a new roof, a generator that could run the whole RV without overheating, and a custom AC system to keep us cool, I wanted to make sure our RV furnace would be ready for the upcoming cold season. Late in the winter, it had started to make some noises when it would fire up first thing in the morning. It's 27 years old and managed to work every time we needed it last winter, keeping all of our water from freezing. It's a pretty important part of our winter setup, so I took it apart, serviced it, lubed all the bearings, put it back together, and it wouldn't run. But we had much bigger problems than a broken furnace. After almost a year of living in our friend's driveway, the city finally caught on and sent us a notice. So, with less than 30 days, I had to get us ready to boondock. I ordered all the tune-up parts, figured out how the doghouse came off, and actually had a lot of fun, even though I spent more time cleaning up after rodents than I did changing spark plugs. The next couple of days after we got the notice were pretty frantic. We spent most of that night on Amazon ordering thousands of dollars in the parts we needed to get Artemis ready. We had such a narrow margin for error, and I had a mountain of work to get done. I ordered 8 batteries and 2 24-volt inverters, with absolutely zero experience building off-grid battery systems. Luckily, I've literally spent the last decade dreaming of this day, so it wasn't like I was a complete noob. Still, this was a very daunting challenge, and something I absolutely couldn't get wrong with the time we had, or the money we both invested. I was, again, very pleased with the end result. Audrey and I now sleep on 12 kilowatts of absolute peace of mind.
Stephen got the batteries installed, the tune-up done, and the heater working just in time for us to shove off on our first boondocking adventure. We had been living in Artemis for almost a year at this point, but had never been wild or stealth camping. With the batteries on board to provide us with all the electricity we needed to run the air conditioner, to edit videos, and play our Xboxes, we were able to keep quiet at night while stealth camping around the Twin Cities. We made a playlist if you'd like to check it out.
This is me shocking myself with a 24-volt, 12-kilowatt battery after we came back from boondocking. I'm so energetic. After 2 weeks out on the road, Artemis took some damage. The last day out, I was barely getting our rear suspension to pump up. The pump and all of the electronics for it died on our friend's driveway the night we got back. We spent the next several weeks on level while I tried to figure out how to completely rebuild the whole system from scratch after I got laughed out of a few camping worlds for looking for 27-year-old RV parts. My bad.
While Stephen was outside trying to fix the suspension, I was inside doing other small repairs like fixing the bathroom doorknob. It's super easy to do. I've done several, and I hope to never do another again, but we needed it after the old one locked us out. And it's better than working outside under the RV. Just 3 weeks until Thanksgiving, Stephen didn't realize he had blown a fuse for the engine fans while working on the suspension. And while we were on our way to the gas station to dump, we almost blew up our engine. Thankfully, Stephen caught it just in time. It could have been so much worse, and we were so lucky.
In Minnesota, the temperature changes fast in the fall. Before I knew it, I was on an old jet ski friend of mine's, freezing my butt off in front of a typical Minnesota redneck get-together. While at home, Artemis was still plaguing us with all of the challenges, including this water leak. These tires were the last thing that was needed to be done to Artemis before she was ready for travel. We had to scrape the bottom of the money bucket for these things. They were extremely hard to find, and before I found these, I had lost a bunch of money trying to be cheap, buying used tires, only to find out they were way worse than advertised and the wrong size. Luckily, even with all that bad tire energy, we still managed to get the right ones put on just days before we had to travel across the state to spend Thanksgiving with my family. We have been debating whether or not we could make it to Thanksgiving at my mother's since the suspension broke. We spent a lot of money this year rebuilding Artemis, like a lot. We knew by now that we weren't going to be able to stay for another winter again in my friend's driveway. Parking problems and risking the generosity of my friends, we felt like we were running out of options. Traveling takes money. And as excited as my mom was for us to make the trip, RVs don't run on hopes and dreams. We were taking money out of our winter survival funds to be there. But it was still very much worth the trip. The drive was absolutely gorgeous. The roads were atrocious, and my family was perfect. I'm glad we went.
Winter came early, and its start was intense. And while we were dealing with winter, we were also making plans to leave. Then Stephen's brother offered us a place to park. We were still unsure of our winter plans, and because of our budget, we didn't really know how much cold weather we could live through. But we ran our last-minute errands and started getting ready to leave in a blizzard, as the forecast showed colder and colder temperatures. Here's us leaving our Boondocking spot of just over a year where we rebuilt and learned how to live in Artemis. It was already a rough day when Stephen found a huge water leak under the tub as we were trying to depart. With no time to fix it and the sun starting to set, it was time to take off. We finally got to our new winter park-up and started settling in for a long, cold winter.
This is me showing Audrey around Rochester, a town I lived in before we met. It's been a long, challenging year. Unlike anything either of us have ever tried before. With everything we have both been through, I like to think we are happier and closer than we have ever been before. And with so much to look back and feel grateful for, it gives us great hope now to think about our future. That's something we couldn't have said last year when we started this journey with you. You all are probably what we are the most thankful for, by the way. Knowing that we have a growing audience that watches us religiously every week is what drives us forward. We can't wait to show you what happens in the next year, for better or for worse. Thank you very, very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you hit that bell notification, we'll see you Sunday.